I've been able to keep up with it.
Shabbat Shalom, and welcome. Welcome. We're glad that you're here, and thankful that you made the evening trek in, and that you hopefully are warm and cozy at home as you join us. We will start this evening as we do each Shabbat evening with our opening nigun, and invite you please to join us.
Just get them?
You mean just the...
Yeah. They would have to put it on.
Let us begin this evening with the kindling of the Shabbat lights. For that, we will invite Biffy Borg and Steve Tikel to join us on the eve of their son Asher becoming a bar mitzvah, and we'll begin on page 121.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
And together, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. We'll continue now as we turn to page 123. As we turn to the words of Kiddush, we'll invite you please in body or in spirit to rise.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kichanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho be'achava uratzon hinchon zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom tehila lamikrai kodesh zecher litiat mitzrayim ki banu bacharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol amim v'shabbat kodshecha be'achava uratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim. And please be seated. Please be seated. Page 125 as we continue. Where has this week vanished? Is it lost forever? Will I ever recover anything from it? The joy of life, the unexpected victory, the realized hope, the task accomplished. Will I ever be able to banish the memory of pain, the sting of defeat, the heaviness of boredom? On this day, let me keep for a while what must drift away. On this day, let me be free of the burdens that must return. And on this day, Shabbat abide. Help me to withdraw for a while from the flight of time, contain the retreat of the hours and days from the grasp of frantic life. Let me learn to pause, if only for this day. Let me find peace on this day. Let me enter into a quiet world this day. On this day, Shabbat abide. We continue now on page 134 with the singing of Zamru Ladonai.
Together, Zamru Ladonai Bechinor, Bechinor Bekol Zmira, Bechatzotrot Bekol Shofar, Hari Lifnei HaMelech Adonai, Yirom Hayom Ulva, Tevel
In Genesis, Rabbi, in the commentary on the book of Genesis, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish taught that the day of Shabbat came before the Holy One and said, Creator of the world, every day has a partner. Sunday has Monday, and Monday has Tuesday, and Tuesday has Wednesday, and so on. But I have no partner. And the Holy One replied, Israel shall be your partner. And when Israel stood at Sinai, God said to them, Remember my promise to Shabbat, that Israel will be your partner. And thus it is written, the day, remember this day of Shabbat and keep it holy. And this is how we look at the partnering for Lecha Dodi with the people Israel and Shabbat. And we continue now on page 138 with the singing of Lecha Dodi, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And at verse 9, we all of us rise and we face a door of entrance and we greet our partner.
So a few weeks ago, we introduced a new tune for Lecha Dodi that comes from Greek tradition. And I'm sure you remember. And if you don't, you will catch on. It's very, very easy to join in. So please join in on the refrain. It's a very catchy tune.
Shama
לקראת שבת לכו ולכה, כי היא מקורך הברכה, מראש מכרם נסוכה, סמאסי במעזרנו תהילו, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בערב שבת נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בערב שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באור קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כי באת אדונייך עלייך יגלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בערב שבת נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בערב שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בערב שבת נקבלה, לך דודי, לקראת כלה, בערב שבת נקבלה.
Please be seated. Page 145 as we continue. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence.
יתקדש ויתקדש מרבה, באמרי וראחירותי במליכותי, בחייכנו ויומכם, וחיי דרכו בית ישראל, בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן גרים, וימרו,
Amen.
יהי שמרה במבורך, והעולם עולם מעלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרמה ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקדשם, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירון בעלמה, וימרו.
Amen. Page 146 as we rise for our call to worship the Baruch Hu. Let's continue together on page 149. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. And please be seated. V'hitem kedoshim Eloheichem, Ani Adonai Eloheichem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, lihiyot lahem le'elohim, Ani Adonai Eloheichem. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, and that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Just before we turn to the Hashkivenu, we share this notion of the canopy of peace, this sukkah of peace. And we know that peace comes to us in the recognition that when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, when we recognize that we cannot control everything, redemption can in fact be achieved. that central image in this prayer of the Sukkah of peace. The Sukkah is actually a fragile structure, this we know, open to the elements, and peace is pictured not as a temple, solidly built, gilded, but perhaps ornate, but rather created out of the most fragmentary of materials, leaving us vulnerable and actually somewhat at risk. And so we share these words of Hashkivenu as we give thanks and pay attention to this Sukkah, this Sukkot Shalom, this Sukkah of peace. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship, in fact, be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporeis Sukkot Shalom Aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We continue now with the singing of Vishamru on page 162.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat le'dorotam berit olam. Beini u'ben bnei Yisrael, beini u'ben bnei Yisrael, oti le'olam, ki le'olam. Yambiri bipipam, Shabbat Shabbat, yambiri bipipam, Shabbat Shabbat, yambiri bipipam, Shabbat Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai es hashamayim ve'et haaretz, u'bayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafot. Yambiri bipipam, Shabbat Shabbat, yambiri bipipam, Shabbat Shabbat, yambiri bipipam, Shabbat Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom.
We continue now with the tefillah on page 164. We'll ask you please in body or in spirit to rise.
Adonai sefer diftachu fiya yitehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, let my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Ve'kanei Hakol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot ve'imachot, Ve'vigelo libnei bneihem, Leman Shemo b'Ahava, Melech Ozer u'Mashiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Be'ezrat Sarah.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחייך כל אתה, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחייך כל ברחמים רבים, סומך נובלים ורופא חורים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומדום אלה, מלך ממיץ ומחיה ומצליח ישועה.
ונאמנת לחיות הכל,
ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. And please be seated. Top of page 173 as we continue. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. And may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, u'tefilatam be'ahava tekabel, u'tehi l'ratzon tamid avodat Yisrael amecha. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha, levadcha, be'yirad na'avod. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, u'lecha na'eh lehodot.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, V'sim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, V'sim Le'olam. Ki atam melech adon, lechol hashalom. Ki atam melech adon, lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, V'sim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, V'sim Le'olam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael, bechol עת ובכל שעה, וישלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha, V'sim Le'olam.
We take a few moments, we pray, and we meditate in silence. We continue now as we turn our thoughts and our prayers to those in need of healing and strength and courage and patience and kindness of care, those whose bodies are ailing them, those whose spirits are ailing them, as we say, Mishaberach, Avotenu v'imotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leahu Yivarech et HaCholim. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah bless and strengthen those who are struggling. This evening we're holding in our prayers Shana Esther Bat Rochel, Sarah Bat Avraham V'Sarah, Ellen Skirker, Laura Braun, Miriam Bat Ella, Stephen Brent, Rini Feingold, Irving Manis, Susan Silton Tobias, Kim Stanger Delisle, Gabriel Berger, Hank Ferrioli, Nancy Cohen, Lynn Fragan, Tammy Henson, Brian Mansfield, Dean Harris, Michael Shartock, Pat Connor, Rick Siltera, Miriam Nemitz, Gary Lipton, Darren Kaplan, Suzanne Seidman, Casey Zachman, Steve Greenfield, Lois Ganecki, Abby Kohat, Ali Goldsmith, Barbara Petro, Valerie Brownstein, Liam Ailes, and Abigail Shimkanen. If there are others whom you would add to our prayers for healing and wholeness and strength, please would you add them as I look your way. And those joining us from home,
Ann Friedman, Tudell Shelley.
Michelle Bacot, Maya Spall Johnson.
May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for wherever possible their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God send renewal of body and renewal of spirit as we join together in saying, Amen. Page 677 as we continue with the singing of Guide My Steps. Three days ago, the Washington Post published an article entitled, Reform Jewish Seminary Report Uncovers 50 Years of Sexual Misconduct. The foreword published articles entitled, Sexual Harassers Led Reform Rabbinical Seminary for 29 Years, and Reform Seminary Investigation Good Old Boys Culture Has Left Scars. And the JTA, the Jewish Telegraphic Agency, published an article entitled, 6 Men and Good Old Boys Culture Harmed Students at Reform Movement's Rabbinical School, report concludes, with an opening line which reads, Sexual harassers led the Reform Movement's Rabbinical School for more than 3 decades, according to an explosive new report commissioned by the school. To say that this has been an exceedingly difficult week for many of us educated at Hebrew Union College would be an understatement. Though the report itself, conducted by independent law firm Morgan Lewis, did not come as a surprise, the specificity of the content and the pervasiveness of decades-long offenses across all 4 campuses, Jerusalem, Cincinnati, Los Angeles, and New York, was triggering and devastating to many of us. We were and are female and male identifying, non-binary, lesbian, bisexual, gay, transgender, queer, and straight, single, married, divorced, and parents, but most especially lovers of Torah, ordained, invested, and trained by those who were supposed to be the cream of the crop, exemplars of Reform Judaism. Morgan Lewis spoke with about 170 witnesses and reviewed hundreds of documents detailing allegations of harassment and discrimination at all 4 of the seminary campuses, dating back to the 1970s. For months and for decades, there have been private conversations of shared experiences of sexual harassment and discrimination, the details of which would make your skin crawl. Some of which this report captures, a report which you should read, not for the sensational headlines it yields or for the gossip, but because for all of us, this is our moment, not just denominationally, but for our Jewish reckoning. This is when we say no more. No more will gender, position, and influence determine who we can be as Jews. No more will we consider jokes, but are really now understood to be microaggressions from male professors at the seminary or any place, but especially at the seminary. Will those be any longer acceptable or tolerated, like the one student who reported when this professor taught that a sermon should be like a woman's skirt, long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to keep it interesting. No more should students have to worry about getting into an elevator with a professor and being groped or being called into his office and fearing an attempted kiss. No more should students or professionals in the field be propositioned for a promotion or a good grade. No more should one hear when applying for a job that their dress, hair, makeup, or weight might negatively impact their candidacy. No more will we condone teaching Jewish values but not espousing them. The headline, "Good Old Boys Network Culture Harmed Students," does in fact a disservice and a terrible injustice to those who not only had their academic and organizational and congregational careers limited, but who were and are victims. Victims who were and may still be discriminated against, assaulted, and abused. And we should be clear to say that out loud, to name it. This report, which many of us knew was being launched after the death of Michael Cook, a professor in Cincinnati who was credibly accused of sexual misconduct and whose April funeral brought up much anger from women he is alleged to have harassed, is only, in fact, the beginning. 4 of the 6 men named in the report are now deceased, and undoubtedly there are more who should have been named. While I was aware of some of the discrimination and abuse during the 1990s when I was at HUC, like many, I was shocked and sickened at the breadth and scope of this report. It wasn't until this week, that many of us learned that our very smicha, our certificate of ordination, reads differently depending on whether we are male or female. Until 2016, 5 years ago, men were bestowed the title Morenu Harav, our leader, the rabbi, while women's certificates, my certificate, reads Rav Umora, rabbi and teacher. Worth hearing again. Male colleagues until 2016 have the words our leader, the rabbi, while women's have rabbi and teacher. And a bitter pill many were forced to swallow during our tenure at HUC was that despite the reform movements and our seminary's full acceptance and inclusion of gay students, at least one of our professors, Eugene Borowitz, refused to sign our ordination certificates without an admission that we were straight. In addition to the Chancellor of HUC, Alfred Gottschalk, who was part of my ordination and named in the report, the very person who served as president of Hebrew Union College, Sheldon Zimmerman, whom I respected and trusted, and who, through the laying on of his hands on my head, in front of the most spectacular open ark at Temple Emmanuel, conferring upon me not just the title, but the tremendous yoke of responsibility of rabbi, during one of the single most sacred moments in my entire life, is one of the named living perpetrators in this report. I have spent much of this week with a knot in my stomach and gnawing doubt about what I experienced and what I thought were acceptable Jewish values in my 20s. So this June, as many Reform Jews will be marking the 50th anniversary of women in the rabbinate, as many of us 600 female-identifying rabbis, together with our allies and supporters, celebrate this remarkable milestone, we are also considering new rituals and the possibility of new ordination certificates to replace the now tainted ones. While many of us were shattered by what the report revealed, so too have we discovered a new capacity to hear one another's pain, to sit with it, to create ample space for it and its impact, and to both imagine and work toward full equality and dignity. This report calls for continued transparency and accountability. The bravery of the many who told their stories is breathtaking and admirable. I join with Rabbi Mary Zamor, my classmate and the executive director of the Women's Rabbinic Network, an independent organization of 600 female-identified rabbis in the Reform movement, who congratulated the seminary for its detailed report and recommendations. We never thought this day would come, Rabbi Mary Zamor, director of the network, told Religion News Services. There is a mix of gratitude and pain and shock. The report is very difficult to read, and at the same time, there is so much hope in this at the level of transparency. And we hope that this is going to be a positive step forward. There is still much work to be done, and with so many impacted and so many more who can relate, I close by sharing this prayer with you, written by Rabbi Rachel Berman, called A Prayer for Sunlight and Survivors. For months, years, decades, we have wandered with the weight of the darkness pressing on our shoulders. We tried to tell our stories, to stand with siblings who were trying to tell theirs, but our audience said they couldn't see what we were showing them. It was too dark to see, they said. It was too much to comprehend, they said. We were just seeing things in the darkness, imagining demons and ghosts in the shadows. The only light we were afforded was gaslight. But despite this cruelty, we continued walking. We survived. We served. We led. We loved. We wrote. We sang. We danced. We lived. Some discounted our strength, but we scoffed at their doubt. We knew the truth. We knew how much strength it takes to dance and sing and live, and be all while carrying the darkness. And then after working and walking and pushing and demanding for months and years and decades, we arrived at a field bathed in sunlight. Our stories are visible now. No one could claim they were unable to see. The darkness was never ours. It was a burden that we should have never been forced to carry. And the light was not given to us. It was created by us. We are the source of the light. May we bask in the healing power of the light we have created. May we help one another and hold one another as our stories are shared and the pain that we have carried is unleashed. May we be the very last generation of people to carry such devastating darkness. May our lives be filled with light on this day and for all days. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may this be God's will and our will. Ken Yehi Ratzon. Join us, please, as we rise with the yoke of responsibility. We turn to our closing prayers, the Aleinu, page 586, as we rise.
Aleinu l'shabech la'adon ha'avon, la'teknu la'liyatzeret reshit, shelo sargei ha'atzot ve'lo samanu mishpat ha'adama, shelo sargei gohem ve'gor aleinu ve'or hamanam, va'anachnu bonim u'mishtahavim u'madim,
We pause now to think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us, those who died at this season in years past, and those whom we have drawn into our hearts with our own. During the period of Shloshim, these last 30 days, we are remembering Deborah Platt, Levy, cousin of Linda Platt and Lisa Altman, Michael Seidman, father of Ed Seidman, Alma Kubi, sister of Marcia Elwitt, Richard Wexler, brother of Roberta Borg, uncle of Biffy Borg and Ethan Borg, and Eric Weiner, son of Howard and Sue Weiner. Tonight marks a yahrzeit, an anniversary of passing for Ernest Brannell Jr., William W. Cohn, Lillian Dollinger, Lorraine Dorfman, Zelda Druce, James Eichner, Sylvia Feingold, Mary Gorey, Solomon Gold, Evelyn Greenfield, Samuel Gross, Yuta Gorovic, Stanley Handelman, Ida Harf, Maureen Highfield, Phyllis Kaplan, Rob Krieger, Diana Latta, Evan Light, Linda Lieberman, Clifford Lovenheim, Melvin Neisner, Sam Passarow, Ria Passarow, Ethel Rosen, Mildred Schiller, Saul Skirker. This week we also call to mind, as we observed Veterans Day and honor those who served, we remember also all of those who lost their life in service, as we say Zichronam Livracha. If there are other names that you would add to either list, or names that are better spoken aloud by you, please would you share them as I look your way. And at home,
Dick Boone,
Zichronam Livracha, may all of their memories be for a blessing as we turn to page 598 for the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach yerutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulmei ulmaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, V'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, huya aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel as we join together in saying, Amen. Amen. And please be seated. Please be seated. Join us, please, tomorrow morning at 9:15 for Torah study only on Zoom. You can find that information on our website. And then join us at 10:30 tomorrow morning for our Shabbat morning services when Asher Tekel will be called to the Torah. We wish all of the Borg Tekel family members and guests who are joining us online this evening the very best as we continue on with what promises to be a beautiful Shabbat morning. Sunday, we have religious school at 9:30, and the cantor will conclude her last class of Funny It Doesn't Sound Jewish. One more, sorry, 2 classes, right? There are 2 more classes. Funny It Doesn't Sound Jewish at 9:30, and then we continue with the rest of our classes as scheduled. Monday, November 15th, our Social Action Committee is bringing a speaker in for our series on policing, past, present, and future, a history with guest speaker Dr. John Kiofas. That's at 7 p.m. on Monday, November 15th. You will find that information on our website as well. We want to encourage you to come back next Friday night at 6 p.m. when we have an Erev Shabbat service, a musical Shabbat service, and our new member welcome. Please join us, and then Torah study again next Saturday morning at 9:15, and then Shabbat morning services where Nadia Webb will be called to the Torah as a bat mitzvah. And mark your calendars for November 21st for our Hanukkah Bazaar, and you'll want to come to our social hall to join us for the return of our long-awaited Hanukkah Bazaar. Thanks to Marie Pellet for being our board greeter this morning. And just a few last announcements. It's not too late for the Jewish Soldiers Project. You can donate baked goods this year, baked and purchased kosher goods to Temple Brith Kodesh at the south entrance this Sunday, November 14th from 9 till noon. On Saturday, November 20th at 4 p.m., we have our Transgender Day of Remembrance Interfaith event. We are a co-sponsor of that event. And we ask you please to join us either in person or at Martin Luther King Jr. Park at Manhattan Square. You can find that information on our website as well. Join us, please. Those of us who are attending in person, join us and support this most important day and interfaith gathering. And then finally, there are any number of places that need our support, both financial, emotional, and with our goods. And you can find places to support and donate to Afghan refugees, those who are still struggling from the disasters in Haiti, and Israel Aid is also a place to contribute. And then also for our continued fight for security and against anti-Semitism. Please consider supporting the Rock Strong campaign through the Federation. You can find that information on our website as well. Anything else that I'm missing? Any other announcements from where you sit or from where you sit? Welcome home to those who are joining us back from college. We're glad to have you. And tell us if there's anything else that we should know about from where you are. Okay, then we will continue as we conclude. We will invite the Borg Tekel family to join us for Motzi. And join us, please, at home. Feel free to, we have Ed Seidman here in the sanctuary who cannot show his beautiful challah, right, your beautiful chalot, but feel free at home to show one another your chalot. If you haven't already eaten them, you might have. It's pretty late, but join us as we give thanks.
We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our prayer is humbly said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Amen. Amen. B'te'avon. Page 645 as we conclude with our closing song, Lo Alecha.
Please join me to reflect Rabbi's beautiful speech. We read the words from Pirkei Avot. It is not your duty to complete the work, neither are you free to desist from it. So please join me.
It's not our duty to complete the work, neither are we free to desist from it. Could not be more perfect words for us at all times, but especially this time. We wish you a Shabbat Shalom, a good and a healthy and a sweet Shabbat. Please grab a sweet from our goneg on the way out, that the sweetness should be sweet in your mouth and sweet as you carry through the rest of Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom and Shabbat Shalom at home as well.
Shabbat Shalom.